Most people think the history of the Philippines begins with Ferdinand Magellan. It doesn't. The real story begins 70,000 years earlier, long before Spain, long before Europe even knew these islands existed. A civilization older than many nations on Earth. And then a human being stepped onto Philippine soil and changed history forever. But here is what makes this even more extraordinary. Some of the people who descended from that first footstep carry more DNA from an extinct human species than almost any population on Earth. We will get to that. But first, this is Mythos Amit Raj, and today we are telling the complete story of the Philippines before Spain arrived. Hey history lovers! Quick favor before we start. If you enjoy today's video, please help me reach 5,000 likes and don't forget to subscribe for more amazing historical stories. Before we go in, there is something I need to warn you about. This story was almost lost completely. Not all at once, but gradually, over centuries of colonial rule, when indigenous traditions, writing systems, and political structures were replaced. There are names in this story, kingdoms, kings, entire civilizations, that faded from the historical record and were never taught in schools. We will get to why. But first, let me take you back to where it all began. Welcome back to Mythos Amit Raj, the channel that goes beneath the surface of history to find the stories that were buried, forgotten, or simply never told. Today we are telling the complete history of the Philippines before colonization, before Magellan, before the cross. This story is big. So settle in, and I promise you, by the end of this video, you will never see the Philippines the same way again. It begins roughly 60,000 to 70,000 years ago, with a discovery that shocked archaeologists in a cave on the island of Palawan, a discovery that proved the Philippines was already home to modern humans, tens of thousands of years earlier than many experts expected. We will come back to that cave. But first, you need to understand what kind of world these first arrivals walked into. The Philippine archipelago sits at the crossroads of the ancient world. To the north, China and Japan. To the west, the Indian Ocean trade routes. To the south, the great maritime empires of Java and Sumatra. To the east, the vast open Pacific. Any ship moving between these worlds had to pass through or near the Philippines. And where ships pass, trade follows. And where trade follows, civilization grows. But who were the very first people to call this place home? If you are still with me, good, because we are about to meet them. The first Filipinos were not the Austronesian-speaking farmers that most people associate with Filipino ancestry. They came much earlier, much deeper into prehistory. Scientists call them the first wave, and their descendants are still here today. They are the Negrito peoples of the Philippines, the Aita of Luzon, the Agta of the Sierra Madre, the Ati of the Visayas, the Batak of Palawan. These communities carry genetic signatures that trace directly back to the very first wave of modern humans to migrate out of Africa, roughly 60,000 to 70,000 years ago. And here is the fact that stops scientists cold. Negrito populations in the Philippines, particularly the Aita, carry more Denisovan DNA than almost any population on Earth. Denisovans were a separate species of ancient human, cousins to the Neanderthals. For a long time we only knew they existed because of a single finger bone found in a cave in Siberia. But their genetic legacy survived, and it survived most powerfully in the Philippines. This means that somewhere in the deep prehistoric past, the ancestors of the Eta interbred with Denisovans, and that ancient encounter is still detectable in Filipino Negrito DNA today. The oldest Filipinos carry the DNA of an extinct human species that we are only beginning to understand. Now let us go back to that cave in Palawan. Tabon Cave. An American anthropologist named Robert Fox reached into the dark soil and pulled out a fragment of human skull. Using uranium series dating, scientists later determined that skull was approximately 47,000 years old, nearly double what early estimates suggested. That single revision repositioned the entire timeline of human settlement in Southeast Asia. It meant that while early humans were just beginning to enter Europe, your ancestors were already building lives on the other side of the world. Inside that cave, archaeologists also found thousands of stone tools, evidence of controlled fire, animal bones showing cut marks from skilled butchering. This was not a primitive wanderer. This was a toolmaker, a hunter, a thinker, someone who sat around a fire in the depths of a limestone cave 47,000 years ago and passed knowledge to the next generation. But the story does not stop there, because roughly 4,000 to 5,000 years ago, something arrived that would reshape the entire Philippines forever. We are at the halfway point, and we have not even reached the kingdoms yet. Before we move on, I want you to imagine something. A Filipino kingdom sending diplomats to the Emperor of China 1,000 years ago. That is not a myth. That is documented history. And it is exactly where this story is going. The Austronesian migration, one of the greatest maritime expansions in human history. A group of people originating from what is now Taiwan began moving southward in outrigger canoes. Skilled farmers, expert navigators, carrying domesticated crops, domesticated animals. A proto-language that would eventually branch into hundreds of tongues. They arrived in the Philippine archipelago in waves. And when they did not replace the Negrito peoples who were already there. Instead, a complex process of coexistence, intermingling, trade, genetic exchange played out over thousands of years. These Austronesian migrants form the dominant layer of Filipino ancestry. Tagalog, Bisaya, Ilocano, Kapampangan. The majority of lowland Filipino ancestry traces back to these ocean-crossing farmers from Taiwan. But they did not stop in the Philippines. They kept going. West into Indonesia and Malaysia. East across the Pacific to Polynesia. South toward New Zealand, where their descendants became the Maori. And even west across the Indian Ocean, all the way to Madagascar. What this means is extraordinary. Modern Filipinos share a common genetic thread with the Maori of New Zealand, with the native Hawaiians, with the Malagasy people of Madagascar. The Filipino is not just an Asian. The Filipino is part of the largest family of ocean-crossing peoples the world has ever seen. And by the year 1000 AD, while much of Europe was still emerging from the early medieval period, Filipino kingdoms were already trading across Asia. Let that land. The year was 900 AD. A Chinese imperial document recorded a trading mission from a kingdom called Ma'ai, located in what is now the island of Mindoro. The Song dynasty of China described Ma'ai as a prosperous trading state, with organized merchants, with a society sophisticated enough to conduct formal diplomatic trade with the most powerful empire on earth. And Ma'ai was not alone. The kingdom of Tondo, one of the oldest and most powerful polities in all of Southeast Asia, maintained active trade and diplomatic relationships with China, stretching back centuries. The Laguna copper plate inscription, the oldest known written document ever found in the Philippines, dated to 900 AD, was written in a script related to ancient Javanese, in a language blending Old Malay, Old Javanese, and Sanskrit. It recorded a legal transaction, a debt settlement, involving a man from the kingdom of Tondo. This single copper plate, discovered in 1989 by a laborer digging in Laguna, proved beyond any argument that pre-colonial Filipinos had a sophisticated legal system, a written language, and deep connections to the wider civilized world. The Rajahnate of Butuan, a kingdom so wealthy and so globally connected that its ruler, Raja Qiling, traveled personally to the Chinese imperial court in 1001 AD, was received with full diplomatic honors, and established a formal relationship between his kingdom and the most powerful empire on earth. 1,000 years ago. Now let us talk about the gold. Because nothing destroys the myth of the primitive pre-colonial Philippines faster than the gold. In 1981, a farmer in Surigao del Norte in Mindanao stumbled upon something buried in the earth. Thousands of gold artifacts, ceremonial objects, jewelry, ornaments. The collection, now known as the Surigao treasure, dates to roughly the 9th to 12th centuries. Crafted with a level of sophistication comparable with any civilization on Earth at the time, gold in ancient Philippine society was not just decorative, it was political, a marker of status, power, authority. Early Spanish accounts describe Filipino leaders wearing gold from head to toe. Gold earrings, gold armlets, gold anklets, gold chains. One Spanish chronicler wrote in disbelief about the sheer quantity of gold ornaments worn by a single Filipino datu during a diplomatic meeting. This was not a poor, undeveloped society. This was a civilization drowning in gold, and using that gold with extraordinary sophistication. The golden Tara of Agusan, a solid gold figure weighing nearly 2 kilograms, shows clear Hindu-Buddhist artistic influence, evidence of the deep cultural connections between ancient Philippines and the great civilizations of South and Southeast Asia. These were not primitive people. These were master craftsmen, artists, spiritually sophisticated human beings, creating objects of breathtaking beauty centuries before any European set foot on Philippine soil. But everything we have talked about so far, the kingdoms, the gold, the trade, the written language, was about to face the greatest disruption in Philippine history. We are almost at the end. But this last part is the most important. Do not leave yet. When Spain arrived in 1565, they did not find an empty archipelago. They found organized societies, leaders with authority, communities with laws, beliefs, and identity. And over the centuries that followed, much of this history gradually faded. Indigenous traditions were replaced, writing systems disappeared from daily life, political structures were dismantled and rebuilt under colonial frameworks. The Baybayin script became rare. The oral traditions of the Babaylan and Catalonan slowly gave way to new religious structures, the names of ancient kings, the records of trade routes, the stories of the gold and the kingdoms faded from collective memory. Over generations, over centuries, almost completely. Almost. Because here is what time could not erase. The earth remembers. The soil holds on to what people try to throw away. Documents survived in foreign archives, in Chinese imperial records, in Arabic merchant logs, in Javanese royal histories. Artifacts survived underground, buried with the dead, hidden in rivers, waiting. And one by one, archaeologists, historians, geneticists, linguists are digging it back up, piece by piece, name by name, kingdom by kingdom. 7,641 islands, 70,000 years of human history. From the first footstep on Palawan to the courts of the Song dynasty. From the Denisovan DNA of the Ayeta to the golden figures of Agusan and Surigao. From the outrigger canoes of the Austronesian seafarers to the diplomatic missions of Raja Kiling. This is the story of the Philippines before anyone arrived to rewrite it. And it is one of the most extraordinary stories in all of human history. This is why Mythos Amit Raj exists, not just to give you dates and names, but to give you back something that faded, your history. Your real history, the one that started 70,000 years before anyone tried to replace it. We are just getting started. In the next video, we go deep into the kingdom of Tondo, the forgotten empire at the mouth of the Pasig River that traded with China for centuries and ruled the northern Philippines long before Manila had a name. That story is coming, and I promise you, it is extraordinary. But before I go, I want to hear from you. Did you learn about any of these kingdoms in school? Or is this the first time you are hearing these names? And here is the bigger question. If you could bring back one piece of pre-colonial Filipino culture that faded during centuries of colonial rule, what would it be? The Baybayin script, the ancient gold traditions, the political independence of the Rajahnats, the spiritual practices of the Babaylan. Drop your answer in the comments below. Let us talk about it. Like this video if it gave you something real. Share it with a Filipino who needs to hear this story, and subscribe to Mythos Amit Raj so you never miss what we uncover next. Salamat, and I will see you inside the next one.